Hello everyone, today I'm going to be recommending Reckoning by Neal Thompson. I do not come without bias. This book is very special to me as it was written by my father, who's a Vietnam veteran. It's a very professionally written educational book. It's received a lot of accolades. He even received a letter from General Mattis himself, handwritten, proclaiming just that it's an incredibly insightful and historically accurate book. The book itself is an overview of America's foreign policy experience to some extent, starting at the end of World War II and going all the way to the 90s, focusing more heavily on the Vietnam War and the Cold War. Despite being a book of a political nature to some extent, there's no attacks on national policy for the most part, and there's no fallacious arguments being made. Everything is rooted in facts. You'll find that there's 10 plus footnotes on every single page. So as a 20-year-old, it's a very hard book to get through, I will admit. But it's incredibly educational if you're a history geek, if you just want to be more educated on this era. This is an excellent book to read. There's a lot of common misconceptions that are still being taught in our classes that even the typical history major is going to believe that are clued up in this book. My dad uses a lot of quotes, a lot of documented evidence to make his arguments. And the main idea is that most of our foreign policy decisions that were being made at the time were not being made with the American citizens' best interest in mind. And he explains why they were made, who they were really made by, who was really running the show, why they were poor decisions. And he does draw some comparisons near the end of the book from like the politicians of the 60s through the 80s, comparing their decisions and their unethical behavior to modern day presidents and politicians, and showing the stark contrast in the way that the mass media and the public reacts to them. He also does a good job of calling out the mass media during that era, during the 70s and 80s especially, for blatantly lying to the American public, as they so often do. But it focuses most specifically on the foreign policy surrounding Vietnam and the Cold War, why much of it was poor, why much of it was done anyways. It's incredibly insightful, educational, historically accurate, all that. And it's a great demonstration of how our government actually runs things, and especially in times of crisis, who's actually running the show in our government, and why presidents, for example, back in the day made the decisions that they did make, and why they were typically poor ones, why they didn't have the American people in mind. It isn't necessarily super enjoyable to read. It's almost written in the style of like a really long dissertation, but it was written with passion, and you will find a lot of very insightful information into the way that our government was run and still is run, and why different things happened the way that they did, that you will not get in a history class. And yeah, thank you.